There's nothing more fundamental to brewing than cleaning. When somebody comes to me and is interested in learning how to homebrew, the first question I ask is, how much do you like to do dishes? And the reason is that cleaning and sanitation are so key to making great beer. So on today's show, we have Emily Lovato of 5 Star Chemicals, and she's going to talk to us all about cleaning and sanitation today on Homebrewing DIY.
Building recipes and taking good notes are two of the key fundamentals of making great beer. This is one of the first things that you learn when becoming a new brewer. I started taking notes on a sheet from my extract kit and then quickly moved to Brewing Software. I've tried many different types of brewing software, and then I found Brewfather. This is the one piece of software that you need for recipes and very detailed brew day notes, as well as fermentation notes. Brewfather also integrates with some of the topics that we discuss on this show, like the till hydrometer, the ice spindle, and ferment track. You need no other piece of software than Brewfather. One of the best parts of Brewfather is that you can try it for free. All you need to do is head to our website, homebrewingdiy.beer, and click on the Brewfather banner to sign up for free today. Once again, that's homebrewingdiy.beer and sign up for Brewfather today.
Hey, Homebrewing DIY. I want to tell you about an amazing new homebrew shop online. You got to check out Cherokee Brew Supply. They're really great people out of Canton, Georgia, and they can ship to you anything you need to get your brew day going. Cleaning, equipment, ingredients, recipe kits. You can even buy a new brewing system from them. They have everything. But the best part is that if you have an order over $58, you're going to get free shipping. And if you do an order over $100 and use the promo code HomebrewingDIY, you're going to get a 10% off of your entire order. So head over to CherokeeBrewSupply.com and check out all of the ingredients and kits to get your next brew going today. Once again, that's CherokeeBrewSupply.com, and make sure you use the promo code HomebrewingDIY.
Have you ever wanted to make a podcast? Do you have a subject you want to discuss with listeners? Do you even know where to start? Well, if you want to make a podcast and you want to get started now, I could not recommend Anchor enough. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. And you can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Hey, look, I shopped around for a place to post my podcast, and Anchor was the easiest, most streamlined experience you could ask for. So if you're looking for a place for your new podcast, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Once again, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
And welcome back to Homebrewing DIY, the podcast that takes on the do-it-yourself aspect of homebrewing. Gadgets, contraptions, and parts, this podcast covers it all. On today's show, we're talking to Emily Lovato of 5 Star Chemicals. She's joined us today and going to talk about all of their solutions to cleaning and sanitizing your brewery. But first, I'd like to thank all of our patrons over at Patreon. It's your support that comes to us month after month that keeps this podcast coming to you every week. Right now, over at Patreon, we have some great specials going on. You can give at the $1 level, and you can receive access to our ad-free RSS feed, which is only available for the $5 level or higher. So if you'd like to get access to that, for the first 20 subscribers at that $1 level, you're going to get access. We only have 7 spots left, so hop on there, get to it quick. I'd also like to thank our newest patron, Edward Anderson, Once again, your support keeps this show coming to you every week. If you'd like to contribute and give monthly, head over to patreon.com/homebrewing DIY. Once again, that's patreon.com/homebrewing DIY. Another way that you can support the show is by giving us a rating or review. If you use Apple Podcasts, just use your podcast app to give us a review, or podchaser.com is another way to give us a review. Your reviews help others find this show. Also, your feedback helps this show improve. And you can always give feedback by shooting us an email. Just shoot an email to podcast@homebrewingdiy.beer or use the contact form on our website, homebrewingdiy.beer. The last way you can support the show is by heading over to our website, homebrewingdiy.beer, and clicking on our sponsor links such as Cherokee Brew Supply or Brewfather. Your support from those sponsors keeps this show going as well. Well, last week we had our first Brewers Q&A. It was over on our Discord server. And if you'd like to join our Discord server, you can head over to our website, once again, homebrewingdiy.beer, and click on the Join the Discussion in the menu. If you click on that, it'll take you right to our Discord server, sign up, get an account, and you're in. We have a lot to talk about. We also have a patron-only lounge for our patrons, and during our Brewers Q&A, anyone has access up to the first 25 people. And once we're done doing that, we're actually going to take the recording and then we're going to turn it into an episode that we're going to give to our patrons. So head over to that Join the Discussion tab from our website, homebrewingdiy.beer. Quick update on what's going on in my brew house. Right now, I'm in the process of redoing my fermentation chamber. I've taken my old fermentation chamber out and have moved in a new one. I've got a new chest freezer. Thank you, Evan. And I'm actually in the process of doing a rebuild of my ferment track. I'm pretty excited about it. I just got my temp probes in. I am still waiting for the PCB boards. I should see those hopefully this week, fingers crossed. I do feel like sometimes things in the mail right now are a bit slow. But once I get those PCBs, I should have everything I need to get my ferment track up and running again. I'm pretty excited about getting this going, getting some batches into the fermenter, and making some beer. Also on order, I have all of the stuff for my new ice spindle that I'm making. And so I've got a new PCB board, all new ESP8266s. The model, they're a bit different, the ones that work for the ice spindle. And so those are on their way. And once I get all of those parts in place, I'm going to start doing it. But one of the cool things I'm going to do as part of my ferment track build is I am going to build a step-by-step guide. I'll get it posted to our website. I'll just do it as a blog post. But the reason is that I've had a lot of requests because I've done so many podcasts on things like ferment track and ice spindle to actually build a step-by-step guide. Specifically with ferment track, there's not really a lot on the internet other than sifting through a lot of forum posts where you could actually get a guide on building one all the way from scratch. And there's a lot of reasons why. There are a lot of different configurations you could do. You could do screw down components. You could use RJ11s. It all depends on how you want to do the connectors. And there's a lot of different ways. So I'm just going to come up with, at least in my mind, the simplest way to get one out. And then I'm going to build a step-by-step guide and get it out. So keep an eye out for that. And I will let you know when that guide's out. Well, let's hop into this week's episode where we're going to talk to Emily over at 5 Star Chemicals. I'd like to welcome Emily Lovato from 5 Star Chemicals. She's the Business Development Technical Sales Manager, and she's joining us today to talk about all things cleanliness and homebrewing. Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Excellent. Well, let's just get started. I would say the first thing I would like to hear about is the history of 5 Star and how you guys got started in brewery cleaning business. How'd you get there?
Well, 5 Star started dabbling in cleaners and sanitizers about 40 years ago, specifically targeting the homebrew and the craft industry. Our goal in mind was to provide homebrewers as well as the craft market with quality, cleaning and sanitizing products that they can trust. In addition to that, our products are also designed for this industry to handle, their equipment, handle it with care, as well as keep the safety in mind of the user at the frontmost of everything.
Awesome. And when you're talking to, homebrew shops out there, or you're talking to breweries, when you go to them and you explain to them the proper way to clean and sanitize, what does that process look like?
So at Five Star, we have cleaning and sanitizing pretty much down to a science. We pride ourselves in that. For the homebrewing realm as well as the craft, we always recommend that there is a 2 to 3 step process when cleaning and sanitizing their equipment. One, they're always going to need to use an alkaline cleaner or a caustic, depending on what their preference is. They're going to need to rinse between, apply an acid cleaner after that, apply another rinse, and then go in with their sanitizer or their final application. Typically for the homebrew realm, it's going to be a two-part application, being your cleaner, rinse, followed by your sanitizer or your final application. And then in the craft realm, they do throw a couple other chemicals in there, obviously to handle those bigger CIP facilities.
Yeah, and so when you're talking about alkaline cleaners, you might
Mhm.
be talking about a product such as PBW, correct?
Absolutely correct. PBW is our non-caustic alkaline cleaner. That is a phenomenal product across the board. And it's designed with the safety of the user in mind, as well as the equipment that the user is going to be cleaning.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about safety. You
Mhm.
mentioned that a couple of times. When you talk about, obviously, PBW is a pretty safe to handle product when you're talking about it, like I can stick my hand in the water, it's not going to burn it. But the idea is that when you're talking to maybe the difference between a brewery and a home brewer, is there a different level of safety that is involved in there? Like, do they have maybe some products in a brewery that might be a little more hazardous to handle or something like that?
Absolutely. When it comes to PPE, we always recommend, regardless if you're a home brewer or a craft brewer, that you always protect yourself, regardless of the chemicals that you're using. Even if it's indicated that they're safe, it's better to be safe than sorry in the end. So with that, caustics are going to burn the skin, whereas PPW, which is an alkaline cleaner, is not going to have that effect. So if a user were to go in there with gloves, it is not going to burn the skin as a caustic would. But again, we always recommend that everyone wears gloves when they're handling chemicals. The difference being is they're both going to have a high pH, usually of about 10 or higher, which is what's going to give them their cleaning power, if you will. So they're both, intended to be cleaners. However, one is going to be a lot more hazardous to the user than the other. And that being PBW is safe to the user, where caustic is not safe to the user. And caustics are typically used in the craft environment versus the homebrew.
Yeah, I think the place that I've seen it in my home brewery, at least some sort of caustic cleaners are things for like cleaning keg lines, right?
Those are going to be more acid actually for keg lines. Caustics are going to be more for a CIP application. So an application where there's no manual hands-on, if you will. It's kind of, again, in a craft environment typically where they'll pour the chemicals in and it push a button and everything's done in a clean in place atmosphere, versus actually having to manually deal with it with your hands.
That makes complete sense. So, for example, I have a large fermenter that nobody's actually going to be a human inside of it, and you're going to rinse it with that caustic, and it's running through the system, but nobody actually touches it, right?
Correct, correct. And caustics, in my opinion, are more suited for a CIP environment just because of the safety aspect, right? When you have an open fermenter or any sort of open environment, there's always the potential for splashbacks, spills, any sort of accident can happen regardless of how safe you are. That's why they're accidents. So for a CIP application, it's more enclosed. Therefore, caustics are more recommended in that environment because the hazard's a little less than a manual application.
Exactly. Why would we want to clean and sanitize a brewery? What are some of the microbes that might contaminate or get into our beer that we don't want?
So, I mean, why wouldn't you want to sanitize your equipment, honestly? I mean, sanitizing means that, you've treated your equipment with a chemical solution or sometimes heat that will eliminate virtually all spoilage organisms such as molds, wild yeast, bacteria, etc. That could alter the profile or harm anyone consuming that final product. So in my opinion, when you're making a product that's being consumed by others, why wouldn't you want to sanitize?
I
Personally, if
completely
I was going to somebody's homebrew setup and they weren't sanitizing, I would not want to drink their beer. Just
I
because you
I
never
could
know.
I couldn't agree more. But obviously, I just want to I'm gonna assume that maybe somebody here is a brand new brewer, and
Mhm.
uh, and and they might question. And there are times when, and I'll give you an example. When I got my first homebrew kit, it was a decade ago, and I got a kit, and it came with a cleaner in it, and it was a one-step cleaner. What is the
Mm.
difference between, the five-star solution for cleaning and sanitizing versus those types of one-step cleaners that are out there?
So you can't clean and sanitize in one step. There's no way to do so. You can only sanitize a clean environment. And in order to have a clean environment, you need to remove the soil before you can sanitize. And a one step sort of product isn't going to do that because there's no rinse before the sanitation. It's simply use, dump, and you should be good to go, which is not the case. So you can only sanitize clean equipment. Another rule for thumb is that cleaners and sanitizers can only clean what they can see, and that cleaners are not sanitizers. So you always will need two things. You will need a cleaner to remove the soil, followed by a rinse, and then you will need to go in and sanitize that clean environment. Because again, you cannot sanitize an environment where soil has not been removed.
Excellent. And I know that most homebrewers out there are probably familiar with Star San, but
Mhm.
you guys have a ton of products that are just geared towards the homebrew market. What are some of the other products and maybe some of the uses that they would have?
So we do have a great line of products for the homebrew realm, and maybe some that homebrewers don't even know are available to them. PBW obviously is really well known. It's our powdered brewer's wash. It's known across the board as our non-caustic alkaline cleaner. Most are familiar with that, I would hope. Another one that they could use as an alternate if they wanted to PBW, if they're not a fan of the powders and they want a liquid cleaner. We have a product called LLC, which stands for liquid line cleaner, and this is a concentrated alkaline beer line cleaner. However, it can also be used in place of PBW for all areas of their brew system. They could alternate that. So it's just an option for those who maybe are not a fan of the powder and prefer a liquid. We just have some options for them in realms of that. You do want to keep in mind that the LCC is a caustic. So again, if you're looking for someone that wants a little more cleaning power than their standard alkaline, they could also use liquid line cleaner for that. Another great product is BS remover. We all want to rid the BS in our lives, and especially on our equipment in relation to beer stone and scale buildup. This product is specifically designed for the homebrew realm to rid any beer stone that they might be dealing with in their homebrew equipment. Another one would be Saniclean. For those who fear the foam, even though we say to not fear the foam, we do have an alternate available for those who like a low foam alternative to Star San, and that would be Saniclean. Saniclean would also be what I would recommend for any CIP environment. So anything involving a pump, I would not recommend using Star San. It's going to produce foam consistency that could be that of shaving cream, which to a pump is going to cavitate or bog it down. Saniclean is not going to have that effect on a pump. So just depending on what the environment is and what the applications are, we definitely have a wide variety of products to meet every brewer's needs. And those are just a few of the sampling. If anyone wants to go onto our website, we've completely redone our website, and there's a plethora of resources on there and information about some of the other products that we have as well.
One of the things you talked about was beer stone.
Mhm.
And let's assume I'm a brand new brewer. I haven't
Mhm.
brewed enough batches to get some beer stone buildup. What is beer stone, and how would I know I have it?
So beer stone is typically the minerals falling out of the water and sticking to the stainless. Most times this is going to happen in areas that experience hard water, or it's going to happen a lot more quickly. So what'll happen is the minerals will fall out of the water and they will stick to the stainless, leaving this kind of white, cakey-ish appearance on the stainless. You can scratch it off with your fingernail. What this is what we call beer stone. And it's, adhering to that stainless because there's no barrier between the stainless and the chemical, or excuse me, the stainless and the water to prevent it from sticking. This BS remover is going to create sort of an oxidation layer between that stainless and the water to help from it to prevent it from sticking to the stainless walls, so that that stone buildup does not happen so quickly. You're going to have stone buildup. Typically you want to do an overhaul of all of your equipment and passivate your equipment as well, at least once a year. BS remover is great to have in that regimen to be able to do that.
Okay, so once a year, let's say I'm brewing, I would say the average home brewer is probably brewing about around once a month, right? If
Mhm,
I'm doing it a lot, and so about that once a year, I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna take every part completely apart, really get in there, scrub it down with like a toothbrush level of cleanliness to every
mhm.
kind of stainless steel part, and that's a really good time to really bring in that BS, that beer stone remover regimen. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, they can honestly use it a little more frequently than that. What I refer to as the once a year process is passivating their stainless steel. What this is putting that oxidation layer on there. BS remover will remove the buildup that can happen over time, if you use it regularly. And then if the home brewer chooses not to use it regularly, they can use it, once every couple months to kind of help build down that scale. But the best thing for them to do to prevent that scale is to passivate their equipment. And that is something that they would need to do approximately once a year. And again, that what that is putting an oxidation layer between the stainless and anything that's going to come in contact with the stainless, whether it be chemicals, tap water, anything of that nature. It creates an oxidation layer, preventing things from sticking to the stainless, making it easier for the soil removal process.
Oh, that's awesome, and I gotta be honest, that's something that I didn't even know that you did. I've been brewing
Mhm.
for a long time, but, it's always been scrub it down with PBW and then go in with the Star San, obviously, to get the sanitation layers as needed, and I have used beer stone remover when I've had buildup, but I have
Mhm.
never really done a create that oxidation layer so that I have less buildup, and I think that's something I could probably change today, right?
Definitely. And if, for passivation, for those home brewers who don't have BS remover on hand, you can also use undiluted Star San and wipe down the, stainless with a rag of undiluted Star San. Your stainless likes to be in an acidic state. And by doing that with the Star San, not only are you passivating it, you're leaving it in that acidic state, which protects it and it loves. So it's just some, rules of the trade, right? To kind of protect the investment that you make on your equipment. I mean, and as homebrewers advance, the equipment is advancing right along with them, right? So in the past, we haven't had so much of a beer stone remover or passivator for the homebrew market because it's, they're pretty abrasive products. But as homebrewers advance, equipment advance, we needed to advance our line as well to be able to accommodate the homebrewer realm with these products. And so BS remover is something that I think is a great product to add to the regimen, especially just for the benefits that it has. And it's a really cheap product too. It's nothing. I know, homebrewers are familiar with PBW being a more of an expensive product. And BS remover is not an expensive product. It's really cheap, and it's something that goes a long way in regard to protecting your equipment.
Yeah, it's something you could buy a package of, and it could last you a couple of years. It's not something you use a ton of and on every batch, right?
No, we only sell it in an 8-ounce container. They usually, you'll see them in the homebrew stores in an 8-ounce container for the BS remover, and that is, you know, all we offer that product in.
Yep. So you did talk about Star Sand there and going in and using it to passivate uh, with its acidity. But and I think that's kind of a hint to how Star San works. But why don't you give us a detailed explanation of how your sanitizers work?
So our sanitizers are built, for handling the environments that we're trying to sanitize. They're made to go in and kill any possible living organisms so that your profile at the end is not harmed. It's not tainted by any sort of possible organism that could be growing in there. That is why it's so important to have sanitizers. That's why we have high foaming, low foaming, manual sanitizers, manual or sanitizers for CIP application. These sanitizers are made and designed to go in and clean and sanitize these environments so that your product is clean. It's intended to have that flavor profile that you were seeking, and it's not going to harm the user who's ingesting that product at the end.
When we were talking to a little bit deeper about the sanitizers, I actually kind of put out to some of my community members, "Hey, I'm actually gonna have 5 star on the podcast." And I got a ton of questions. And in the question I got asked more and more than any other question was its effectiveness over time. I think a lot of people try to make
Mhm.
Star Sand go a long way, and I don't think Star Sand's overly expensive. You're talking about it ends up being about $1 an ounce if you buy it in the smallest package. But
Mhm.
when you talk to homebrewers, they're constantly trying to make it go a long way by doing things like putting it in a spray bottle, using distilled water. What are some of the tips and tricks out there to kind of make a single batch of Star San last a bit longer?
So, from a legal standpoint, I recommend that every time you sanitize, you make a fresh batch. However, for homebrewers, there's tricks and trades that people do and have been doing for years, as long as Star San's been around. Um, Typically, what you can do is check your pH level of a fresh mixed batch that you know is recently purchased at the store. It hasn't been sitting around for 3 to 4 years. Take that fresh batch, mix it, check your pH level. As long as it's at 3.5 or below, you're good to go. 3.5 or below pH is what's giving it that killing power to kill any living organisms that could possibly be in there. And as long as you are at 3.5 or below, you can continue to use that solution. If you have anyone using reverse osmosis or distilled water, that solution can go a little further. So they definitely, excuse me, can get some more bang for their buck. Typically, a solution will last about 3 to 4 months. But again, they can check that pH level, 3.5 or below, they're good to go. Legally, we always recommend that you make a fresh batch of sanitizer every time that you're sanitizing. It's better to be safe than sorry. But again, we know that home brewers do have tricks and trades, and that is one that has, been proven.
Yeah, and I think that the key there is the checking your pH, right? I think
Mhm.
that a lot of people just mix it in and go, and I'll admit that I'm a little guilty of it, of keeping a spray bottle around and maybe letting it go a little too long. But
Mhm.
in the end, I do have a pH meter. I do check my pH on my Star San, and I have had it even in distilled water go above that 3.5
Mm.
threshold, and you got to toss it. And so,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I
So
mean, it's better to be, like I said, it's better to be safe than sorry. Would you rather toss that mixed solution of Star San or your final batch of beer? You know what I mean? Like,
it's a
in my
dollar worth
opinion,
of
I'd
Star.
rather mix another batch of Star San instead of dumping my entire batch of beer because I didn't do it properly.
Exactly. And let's just put it in numbers. It's a dollar worth of Star Sand versus
Mhm.
$50 worth of beer if you're doing a pretty big IPA. And so
Exactly.
it
And
it
another rule of thumb, if you question it, dump it, right? Like, if you have any question whatsoever, how long has this been sitting? Is it still good? One, you are more than welcome to give 5 Star a call. We are happy to answer any technical questions that you may have. And two, if you question it, dump it and make a new batch. I mean, it's just better to be safe than sorry.
I agree. And I think one of the things that people might lose the fact is that we are still creating a food product here, right?
Hmm.
People are consuming it in their bodies. And so, when we're talking about things like contamination, it is really important to have a really clean brewery and to handle our brewing process as if we were handling chicken or food. And so those are the kind of things that I always think, at least that's my approach to brewing, is like it's the same as cooking in that if I drop chicken on the floor, would you put it back in the pot and cook it? No, you would just toss it. And that's kind of the same idea, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Um,
I mean, you can make, when you're mixing the chemicals such as PBW or the BS remover, even the sanitizer, you can definitely make one batch and transfer that through all of your equipment. That is obviously, completely fine. You don't need to make a new batch. Some new brewers feel they need to make a new batch for each piece of equipment that they're cleaning. That they're just wasting their money at that point. So you can definitely transfer it through, get some longevity out of those products, and just kind of think of it like, let's see, for instance, with PBW, when you make a mixed solution of PBW, it's its most effective in the first 8 to 10 hours. So you want to make sure that you're utilizing all that cleaning power in the first 8 to 10 hours. After that, it's still effective. It's just not as effective. You have some home brewers that'll soak their kettles and what have you overnight because the soil's just crazy, or they don't want to scrub, whatever the case may be, and that's completely fine. But it's its most effective in those first 8 to 10 hours.
yeah. One of the things you talked about was low foaming sanitizer and foaming sanitizers, right? And
Hmm.
I personally don't fear the foam. I love Star San. I get foam everywhere. To me, that just says that it's clean. And when I have my fermenter filled with foam, I just know, hey, beer's going in there. But there are some uses that I've seen from other brewers out there for low foaming. And I know you talked about pumps, but what might be some other uses for having a low foam sanitizer?
Just a low foam sanitizer typically is just an alternative to the high foam. For those people who are just not comfortable with the foam, some people see foam, they freak out, they think soap suds, I need to rinse. No, you don't. So Saniclean is just a low foam alternative for those who fear the foam and for, again, any CIP application. You can use, Saniclean as a manual cleaner or sanitizer as well, but the foam aspects of Star San when manually sanitizing are what are key, right? So there isn't really, I mean, you can use Saniclean in other applications, but it's recommended for all CIP applications, and then Star San is recommended for all manual applications.
Yeah, and I'll kind of give an example. I have a friend that has an automatic bottle washer, and when he
Hmm.
sanitizes his bottles, he obviously uses a low foam sanitizer because
Right.
if he were using Star San in that, it would be growing a gigantic cake of pure foam outside of his thing, and it would be growing larger and larger and larger. And so, yes, that would be a great use case. What kind of new technologies are you guys coming out with? Are you constantly looking to innovate in the brewery chemical space? Is
Yeah, absolutely. We want to, make chemicals that make sense and that are what the consumers need. So we do have some new products that we're developing that will hopefully be rolling out by the end of the year. Just giving some alternates to some already great products. Such as possibly a liquid PBW, as well as a powdered Star San. So just giving some different options for those who like powders over liquids. And then, obviously some of our chemicals are hazardous. And so specifically Star San. And so by making a powdered Star San, we're able to eliminate that hazmat fee. So, some great things for customers down the road. There's no official launch dates or anything like that yet. They're just some things that we're kind of bouncing around and would love to be able to offer if everything works out by the end of the year.
that's awesome. And to be
Yeah.
honest, if
And then
if you came out with powdered Star San, I would love it. So just
yeah, yeah.
FYI.
And me personally, I'm a liquid girl versus a powder. So, I just think for me personally, it's easier. I'm just a fan of liquid. So I think it's great to have something that is, accommodates both
Yeah,
for something that you have something to offer everyone, right? And so
exactly.
we want to continue to do that as we grow as well. And so, if homebrewers have any suggestions or ideas, please throw them our way. They can email, support at 5starchemicals.com and give us your ideas. We're here for you guys and we want to create products that you guys need and you guys want aside from what we already have. So, you know,
And
shoot us some ideas. We're all,
absolutely.
we're all
And if I wanted to find you, where
Mhm.
would I find you? Would it be 5starchemicals.com?
You could email me directly. It's Lovato, so ELOVATO at fivestarchemicals.com. You can, if any home brewers have technical questions or questions regarding, this specific podcast, want more information, more resources, please email me and I'm more than happy to get you any information that I can to help you, you know, clean and sanitize the proper way.
That would be awesome, and I'll make sure that I put a link to the website on the show notes and all of that kind of information
Perfect.
as well. Uh, and I would also like to thank you guys. Well, I'd like to thank Five Star Chemicals and Emily for taking the time to come and be on the show. If I were looking for your chemicals, where are the best places to find them retail?
So if you're looking for our chemicals, you can go to our website. We have a great list of homebrew stores that sell our products. You can also find them on Amazon. We don't sell direct to home brewers. Any craft brewers are welcome to order direct, but home brewers, we do, wish that you would purchase through distributors, such as LD Carlson, More Flavor, or you can order again on Amazon. And on our website, we have a huge list organized by state of homebrew stores in your area that offer our products.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on our
Mhm.
show. I learned a few things that I never knew about cleaning, so this is always every interview for me is always a learning experience. And Emily, I want to thank you for taking the time. And even though we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, we got through them. And
Yeah.
thanks for coming on Homebrewing DIY.
You are more than welcome. And I just want to leave the, home brewers with just a couple rules to think of as you, continue on your home brewing journey. One, you can only sanitize clean equipment. Two, dirty equipment will always contain bacteria. Three, cleaners and sanitizers, can only clean what they see. Cleaners are not sanitizers. Sanitizers are not cleaners. Time, temperature, and concentration are important. Do not overuse your chemicals and respect your chemicals. As long as
That
that, follow those rules, keep a good cleaning regimen, keep your equipment clean and sanitize, and, clean equipment equals clean beer.
I couldn't have said it any better. That's a great set of rules to live by.
And then, like I said before, 5 stars always here. If you guys need us, feel free to reach out with any questions. We're more than happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Emily.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I want to thank Emily for taking the time to be on the show. It was really great talking to her, and I learned a thing or two. I hope you did too. You can always follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Just look for us, the handle at Homebrewing DIY, all one word. If you want to find out more about 5 Star Chemicals, just go into our show notes. I'll have links to Emily and all of the things over at 5 Star so that you can check out and do a deeper dive. Well, that's it for this week, and we'll talk to you next week on Homebrewing DIY.